Good afternoon, LinkedIn. It's Ruella Crouch here with our Recruitment Hacks live show. I think this is the 12th or 13th show. So the time has gone by very, very quickly since we first started a few months ago. And today I have the lovely Kirsty Ames here, who's going to introduce herself in a moment. And we are going to be talking about all things to do with how video can help you build great relationships on LinkedIn and obviously in many, many other ways. And as I think I said to you, Kirsty, behind the scenes, I've been on LinkedIn for a little while now, and I have never done a video. I don't mind doing the lives, but the actual video part is really quite daunting. But look, tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know people are now listening. We've got some comments coming through. Tell us a bit about you and what you do.
Okay, so I'm Kirsty. I'm head of multimedia at Flair. We're a business growth company that help people create scalable businesses. And my role specifically is focused pretty much on the content and teaching people how to make their own content. So we mostly look at how you can make the video process easier as cheaply as humanly possible is my thing. I want engaging video that connects with my audience, but I don't want to spend a lot of money or time on it. So that's really what we do, or what I do, I suppose.
Fantastic. So the first thing, as I said to you before, I think video is quite daunting. And the problem with it, unlike this show, we can't change what's happened and what we look like. But with a video, we can replay and replay. And I think I've done once about 50 videos in a day and still didn't post it, because you're just critiquing yourself all the time. But why do you think video is so powerful? Why is it such an important thing, not necessarily to get right, but to do, particularly in recruitment? Why is it such an important area?
I mean, in recruitment is the relationship business. You know, it's the relationship industry, and videos help you not necessarily to create relationships out of nothing, but they definitely help you to speed up the conversion process, and they allow people to see you. You know, people buy from people, and on video you get to see everything. You get to see my mannerisms, you get to hear how I speak, you get to get my personality. I mean, if you ever watch the LinkedIn lives with me and Mike, my personality comes across real big. And so video allows you to be personable, and you know, the quicker that you create those relationships with people, the earlier that happens. And it also allows you to do so many things. So video in our world is focused on three aspects, really. One is adding value to your audience. You know, whether obviously in recruitment you have two sets of clients, because you have candidates and your clients, but it allows you to give them valuable content, whether that is how-tos or interesting takes on something that's going on in the industry or something like that. You're adding a lot of value to them. You also have promotions, so selling products, services, events, things like that, or roles, sometimes selling roles, but they should be about 10% of what you're doing, because you know, very often that's not relevant to everybody, and nobody likes being sold to repeatedly. So that's about 10%, and then the rest of it is what we refer to as e-rapport. So it's getting that relationship, that rapport, electronically, and you can do it either by posting generally. So you can do live events like this, you can post videos to your feed, which is, you know, what a lot of people struggle with. You can send direct messages. You don't even necessarily have to use LinkedIn. You can use things like Odro, which I know quite a lot of recruitment use, or Interview. I think
or Interview, that's right.
But they're quite expensive. So you can do things like, we're using StreamYard, which is my favorite. And you could do this with a client, have a private meet with a client where you literally have the CV up on the page and you go through it. And that's a really powerful way of doing that sort of in-person meet without actually having to be in person, if that makes sense.
Yes. And in fact, I'm just going to say, because we've had quite a few people join us today, if anyone has any specific questions about video that they want to ask Kirsty, we can ask those questions at the end, because I've got a few of my own. So why do you think people are so nervous about doing this? What stops them from getting the video, even contemplating putting a video out there in the first place?
I think you sort of touched on it earlier, which is, you know, people are so self-critical, especially when it's video. Even live now, if I mess up, if I do something, I've watched it, but everyone's seen it, so I can't do anything about it. Whereas if I'm recorded it, there's this belief that perfection is the aim when it comes to video. In actual fact, it's sort of the opposite. Mistakes are more personable and help people to get to know you. But, you know, if you film a video, a lot of the time people make videos quite complicated. So it will be a 5-minute video with 7 or 8 different points in. Whereas if you narrowed that down to a 30 to 90 second video, about a minute long, something like that, that's 1 point, you know, and all of this content is stuff that you know. It's not anything that is surprising to you. So you can talk for a minute and you can say and and look away from the camera and do lots of things, and that's going to be you. 5 minutes long, too long. Don't do that. Just make it nice and short and sweet, I think is probably. So
sort of a minute being the sort of the optimum time for video.
Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as a video that's too long, only too boring. So, but you know, but for me, I generally start with 30 to 90 seconds, somewhere in that bracket. Most people can speak and feel comfortable and not lose their way, as it were.
Super. And I know off camera, we were talking about sort of 2 particular things. First of all, is about the positioning to get, because I've seen so many videos of people literally jumping out of the screen. Exactly. I've seen those. And then we talked about performance. So why don't we talk about some sort of top tips around positioning to start with?
Okay, so first of all, you want to fill the screen, okay? Because again, this whole purpose of video is you're building a relationship. So you need to be the focus of the video. And to do that, you kind of want sort of your head, shoulders in, bit of your torso. And if you put on top of your head fingers, 2 or 3 fingers, that's the gap that you should have above your head, pretty much, 2 or 3 fingers. And it means that you're nicely centered on the screen and it's all about you, which is, it's a big thing. Secondly is about lighting. Everybody asks me about lighting because it's something that can really make you feel a lot better. So, you know, we spoke about, I don't want to be on camera, or I'm very critical of, you know, you can see up my nose or things like that. Camera lighting covers a multitude of sins. I'm a huge fan of it. So you can use things like ring lights, which you can get off things like Amazon for like 10 to 50 quid.
Absolutely.
But I'm a big fan of natural light. So here to the side of me, I have a big kind of patio door. This is my kitchen. And it means I'm very well lit. It hides a lot of blemishes and things that I don't really want people to see on my face. But also, if you've got glasses, a ring light can be, you sort of see the circle on it. Whereas because of Windows diffuse lighting, it's a lot easier to light yourself. I think it's a lot less hassle and you have to do a lot less moving things around, which I'm a huge fan of.
I hate ring lights. I find myself squinting in front of a ring light.
I get headaches as well. I don't know about you. If I'm doing a lot of recording all day, if I'm doing a lot of Zoom calls or I'm doing a lot of filming, I get headaches. Natural lighting, my body's literally built for natural lighting. It's what millennia humans have dealt with. So I'm a huge fan of it. And then the third one with sort of positioning is you want to film you want the camera to be slightly higher than your eye line. So if I were to have the camera at the same level as my eye line, it would be here. Whereas in actual fact, it's sort of here. So I'm sort of ever so slightly looking up. It's a very flattering angle. Anybody who was a teenager in the noughties remembers taking selfies at this angle. But also it means that you're not looking down on your audience. And so it's just going to make you look more open and friendly. And again, the whole point of this is building a relationship through video. And this is a great way to do that.
I've just got a quick question here from Francesca. What key points would you try to get across in a minute? Oh, we're going to cover this later, aren't we? Introduction of yourself, treat it like a call or like a first interview. We'll definitely cover that, Francesca, towards the end, because Kirsty and I were discussing this off air. But I know one of the best tips you gave me, because I've noticed when I've been doing my lives, and I've noticed when I've been interviewing people on my podcast, that I'm kind of looking at myself all the time, or the person. And then I feel it looks a little bit odd. And you gave me a great tip, which I would love you to just share with the audience today.
Yeah, so this is my favorite tip, and it's the simplest tip that has the most power, because again, we're talking about relationships. So at the moment, I am looking at the camera. So what it feels like, if anybody who's watching me online right now feels like I'm talking to them, I'm looking at them. This is me looking at myself. And this is what most people do. They talk to themselves. Now, if we started like this, it's probably not that big of a difference. But as soon as I look back again, you recognize that I'm talking to you. I'm forming that relationship with you. Eye contact is huge in relationships building. So it's the deal. So if you struggle with it, a lot of people struggle with cameras. It's a bit intimidating. Get little googly eyes from Amazon and stick them either side of your camera lens. I did it to start with. That. Or cut out a picture of a loved one and put it behind, and so that you're sort of talking to the loved one
To
instead
them.
of just a tiny evil dot that looks in the middle of your camera.
It's fantastic because it is, and I'm looking at the camera now, and it's so hard because I'm not really looking at you, but I'm probably coming across a lot better than if I look back to you now. It's a great tip, but so simple, but really, really effective.
It does take practice, and it normally works out. You don't have to stare at the camera. You can still look away and think. But when you're developing that relationship to begin with, so when you're speaking, you look at the camera, and then when the other person talks, you are more than okay to look at them. But when you're talking, especially if you're presenting, so if you're recording yourself or you're talking live or you're doing a webinar, look at the camera. People will instantly feel more connected to you. It's such a powerful thing to do.
No, it's a really, really great tip. And I keep trying to look at the camera. And then the next thing we talked about was performance, because I know you love to make sure that you do a lot of your stuff on your phone. Do people need great tech or amazing apps to produce great video?
No. Most smartphones now have good cameras. We're not talking back in the days when it was really blurry. They've got HD level cameras. So why would you spend £1,000 on a camera when you've already got a fairly decent one right here, that you've already spent that amount of money on? So no, not at all. With the equipment, the things that I would recommend people have are a camera. So smartphone is more than sufficient, or a webcam if you want. That's what I'm using right now to speak to you. Second thing, I would recommend people buy a tripod.
Okay.
But they are £1 a penny. You can get them for like £4 on Amazon. And make sure that I've got my tripod here. Make sure you've got one of these, which is a smartphone holder, because otherwise you're going to find it very difficult to film on a smartphone. And then the other thing would be some form of lighting. So like I said, I'm a huge fan of free natural lighting. But ring lightings are an option if you're working in an office that doesn't have any, or you regularly film out of hours because you've got family commitments where it's quieter, things like that. So it's not it. Okay. When it comes to editing, no, there's free software called DaVinci Resolve, which is very similar to Premiere Pro, which is an Adobe product, but it's completely free at the base level. And the functionality that you get free with Resolve is all that you need to start with, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of how-tos on YouTube. So it's a really, really easy software. Alternatively, you can use things like StreamYard, like this. You can use it to create video and have things pop up and go away. It's a little bit less smooth, but for me, you don't have to spend a lot of money at all, especially not when you start.
Okay. And then you had some tips around performance. Are you happy to share those with us today?
Of course I am. So one thing that I really want to focus on when you're doing this is mistakes are good. Okay, perfection is not the key here. Perfection is cold and autonomous, and it's big corporate. Well, that's not what a lot of you are. A lot of you are selling
people. Ourselves.
You're selling yourselves. That's what your biggest USP is for a lot of recruiters. So be yourself, be authentic. Don't try and be me, and don't try and be Ruella. Be yourself, whatever that is. If you've got an accent, embrace the accent. As long as you might have to speak a bit slower. I've got a yam accent traditionally, so I slow down a little bit because I speak very, very fast normally. But be yourself. That's the biggest thing with your performance, because if you're not authentic, people will recognize it and won't engage with your videos. So mistakes are good. Stumble over them, unless you completely lose your train of thought. You can.
I've done that a few times live.
We've all done it. But you can. Camera's gone. Oh, there, I'm back now. Sorry.
You're back. You were frozen there for a second.
I'm sorry. I'm here now. The thing to think about is when you're doing your performance is preparation is sort of key. So when I say preparation, I don't necessarily mean scripting something out word for word or rehearsing something for 2 or 3 hours. But it's a bit like a presentation. If you've ever done public speaking, you rehearse your intro and your outro really, really well. So your intro should be a grabber. So it should get the attention of whoever it is. So whether that is you're sending a one-to-one message and I'm talking to you today about this role or this candidate or whatever it might be, or if you're publishing something that's going to appear in the LinkedIn feed, and it's something like, so for me, the last one I recorded was, let's talk about call to actions at the end of videos.
Okay.
it's instant. It's the same way as you'd write a LinkedIn post. You want that first sentence to be powerful. Rehearse that. The middle, be a bit more loosey about. You've only got 30 seconds or a minute. It's not that long. And then I would nail your ending, because I'm willing to bet, Ruella, let me ask you this. When you filmed, when you got to that last 5 seconds where you'd sort of finished your point and you were like, I need to end the video now, and I'm just blathering on. We've all done it. Whereas if you have an ending that you've rehearsed and you know how you're ending, you can send it nice and crisp. And it means you'll feel better about it. Genuinely, you'll feel better about it. So rehearsal is key. Rehearse the beginning, rehearse the end, but sort of rehearse the middle. Just have a bullet point about what you want to say. But yeah, don't overthink it. And then the other thing is, I always film in batches of 3.
Okay. It's like cooking.
Yeah, it's very similar. So what it is I will film something 3 times. No matter what, if I nail it on the first one or not, I will always film it 3 times because it takes the pressure off you when you're filming. Secondly, it allows you to pick the best. So if you've got two that aren't so great, but one that's shining, you're like, well, that's so much better than 1 or 2. So I don't have to beat myself up about it. I know it's good. But also, first one, it's a rehearsal. If you get it wrong, you're like, got 2 more in the bag. Second one, you've already had a rehearsal, you've got 1 left to go for. Most people will nail it on the second. And then the third one, if you nailed it, you can improve on it. And if you didn't, it's a lot less pressure because you've already done it a couple of times and your brain sort of mentally knows what you're doing. So those performance wise, those are sort of my biggest tips. But the biggest one for performance is looking at the camera, I have to say.
Yeah, they're fantastic tips. Thank you. So useful. I've got a couple of questions here. Anthony has said, I have a new recruiter that hasn't done any videos yet. What do you think his first video should look like? I think he means, what should it be about? Okay, so there's a couple of things. First of all, if you really want to start small, if millennials and Gen Z tend to be more comfortable on camera. So if he's not bothered about filming something, then get him into, introducing himself. You could also do, what he's learned the most in the first week, or what he's learned the most since working at the business, anything like that. If he's really hesitant, get him to do that, but only share it internally. And if you promise to do that, you really can only do it internally. But anything, if he's really confident, I would recommend a value add video. So a tip on something, this is what I learned. This is the most powerful thing I've learned in my first 6 months as a recruiter. Something like that, which is very giving, but also no one's going to be like, well, that's wrong. Do you know what I mean? People have a fear of being wrong. Because they're the experts. Yeah. Yeah. So if you make it very low level, something that he's learned, something that is from his experience, that's a really powerful thing. And I think a lot of people will relate to that. It's about personality is the key here. Hopefully that answers your question, Anthony. And then the next one is from Claire. I always find it stalling at the end of a video when you're reaching for the stop record button. Can you do it remotely somehow? She's not very techie. Okay. 2 things on this. Yes, you can buy remotes, again, from Amazon that you can click start and stop. With your phone? You can use this with your phone? With your phone. You can get them. Yeah. Personally, I'm a big fan of just cropping the video. So it's a very, very easy edit to do, and you can do it on your phone. So if you're filming on your phone, when you've filmed it, pretty much any phone that you use at all, whether it's Android or iPhone, if you go in and click edit on the video, you'll be able to sort of drag the beginning and the end in a little bit. So what I would recommend you do is you press start on the video, go back, get yourself steady, take a breath, then start speaking, because it makes it easier to crop the beginning. And once you finish speaking, so say something for us, my sign off on my videos is, as we say at Flair, if you want it, go and get it, and I'll see you next time. Yeah. Count to 3 in your head, and then stop the button. So give yourself a pause, and it's much easier to edit it in. If you're kind of going for the button as you want it to end, it's much more difficult to end. So yes, you can get clickers, but I also think you can do the editing on your phone as long as you utilize pauses when you're filming. Yeah, that's fantastic. So Reem has said looking at the camera is tricky, so a great tip. It's a stick, a little round sticker, which is a bit like your googly eyes. And Anthony said thank you for those tips there, which is great.
Yeah.
And then we were going to finish off by talking about content, because obviously it's a lot going on LinkedIn and every other platform at the moment. You want to get above the noise and have some things that people are, and that's a short video, but obviously have some content that people are going to be interested in. What are your top tips there as to, as Anthony was asking earlier, top tips for videos?
Yeah, I think Francesca was asking as well. So, I mean, Pete's the head of content. I know he's coming on the show soon, so I don't want to spoil too much of his thunder. But the key thing is to think about what interests your audience. So if you're trying to sell to a cat, you talk about fish, right? If nobody, I don't mean to be rude or mean, and please bear with me. I'm not saying nobody cares about recruitment, but I'm sort of saying that nobody cares about recruitment. Unless I am actively recruiting, I don't care, and I want someone else to do it because it's difficult to do. So say you're talking to somebody in HR, you might want to talk about HR things, HR technologies, or HR legal changes, or if you're dealing with someone in manufacturing, you might want to be talking about new technology that's going to come in that's really interesting. So whilst it's very tempting for content to talk about what you know and what you enjoy and what is your passion, because most recruiters I've met are very passionate about their recruitment. Yeah. Is that as an interest to your audience? Because if it isn't, then it's not going to have as strong a relation to, it's not going to get engagement because it's not interesting to them. So what I would say is, first of all, think about your topic. Really, really think about your topic. Secondly, is to, as I said before, make it quite short. People's attention spans aren't very big. And so to shorten the sort of content that you come up is easier. So if you've got a list of 3 things, do 3 separate videos. You get more content, then you can post a video every 2 days instead of 1 video, think of new stuff. But it also means that it's only 60 seconds. People are going to engage with it and there's less resistance. And then the third thing is always end with a call to action that encourages engagement. So I spoke about promotions, which are, sell to me, or click on this or buy this, which is fine. Don't really have a high conversion rate. You then have what I refer to as low level call to action, which would be like this video, ask them a question at the end of the video and get them to write it in the comments. Subscribing, things like that. They're low level, low resistance call to actions, and you're more likely to get it. So if I ask a question, so if I'm doing a video and I say, how have you figured out, what tips do you use to look at your camera? Let me know in the comments. You're going to get people who are going to write in the comments, and you're going to get that level of engagement a lot easier than if it's, I want to sell to you, click here and let me. And then the sort of lowest resistance call to action would be a passive one. So if you're sending a direct message on LinkedIn to a candidate or a client, a direct video, and you end it with the call to action being, I'm going to call you tomorrow morning. Please accept my call. That's a passive one. Or if not, let me know and I'll call you at a different time. So that's a very, very passive call to action, but it does really have an effect when you're doing things like that. So it's call to action is key really on the content.
In terms of video, obviously we're talking very much here about LinkedIn video. What about videos on other platforms? Do you do? I think you and I had a bit of an exchange. We were talking about Instagram. Do you use Instagram very much? And what would you put on Instagram?
So I would recommend that you go where your audience is. So if you're dealing with professional industries, legal, accounting, stuff like that, most people are going to react to you on LinkedIn. But if you're in industries that are less like manufacturing, very rarely, or less so in my experiences and my clients, they tend to have better uptake on Facebook and Instagram. Now, there are slightly different rules depending on which platform you're on about the length of video. So Twitter is much shorter. Instagram, again, they're shorter. But the same rules sort of apply to all of them. So I do use Instagram, but I use it very personally. So most of them are just me having find on Instagram. So I don't tend to publicize it, but most of my clients are on LinkedIn, so I can get away with using LinkedIn. So I would, all platforms are perfect. All social media platforms are perfect. YouTube is great. As I said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But I would do a bit of investigation about where your audience mostly is. And that is the area that I would focus on. Because if you try and hit all of them, you'll spread yourself very thin. It's harder to do. So I would focus, it's again, focus on your clients. Focus on where your clients are and really put your attention in that space.
Super. I don't know if you can answer this question from Claire. Can you save Facebook stories to then post on LinkedIn? Haven't found a way yet. So Facebook stories.
Interesting. I am not entirely sure. I know you can on Instagram. I know you can save your Instagram stories. I'm sure there is a way on Facebook. If you want, Claire, what I'll do is I'll just do a quick research for you, and I'll comment back on your comment, and I'll let you know. But I'm sure there is a way, because you can pretty much download your video from every single source. So I'm sure there is, but off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm afraid.
So Kirsty, tell us about your course, because obviously this is just a little snippet of all of the information that you have learned and been teaching to recruiters over the years. So yes, what do you cover in your course aside from some of the things we talked about today?
So essentially, the course is about getting you from either not knowing how to create a video, whether that's technical or confidence, build your confidence through various stages, and getting you creating video from conception all the way through to editing and posting. It's a 7-week course, and I focus on everything. So we do focus on lighting tips, how to get your background well, how to script so that it's easier to edit. Scripting is very important when you're editing. I haven't spoken about it a lot today because it's a fairly big process. But it's something that when you come to do videos, depending on what level you're doing, so there's the easy videos like I've spoken about today, those 30-second ones. You have slightly longer videos, and then you have things like promos or testimonials. So the most powerful thing for recruiters is a testimonial, because it's an excellent way to differentiate yourself. So we talk about all of that, and we do it in live sessions, an hour a week. And you also have unlimited access to me. And we have a LinkedIn group where we post homework, I call it. I suppose you could call it assignments. But it basically is a step-by-step process, so that instead of me going create a video now, I take you through a process to make it very, very simple, very, very easy. And we have a bit of fun. We have a bit of fun while we do it, It's full of hints and tips. So yeah, what I will do, if anyone's interested, I will put a link to it in the comments underneath this. Or alternatively, if somebody's really interested, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can talk to you about it.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Just going back to something you said about video testimonials, can I just have can you give us a quick tip on testimonials? Because we haven't done it. I'd love to. What's the 30-second way of doing it?
The one tip. Okay. The one tip I would say when you're doing testimonials is give the answer in the question. Which doesn't really make any sense. So let me explain. Essentially what you do, so if I was to do a testimonial with you right now, Ruella, about being a guest on your show, I would say something, this is going to sound very big-headed, so please forgive me. I've got to just come off the top of my head. So it's going to be like, so Ruella, very often you want a guest who gives really practical information and is, fun to talk to and enjoyable for guests to say. How do you feel Kirsty was on your show today?
Yeah.
Right. So I've given you my answer that I want from you. I've given you the keywords. You want practical advice, and you want someone who's hopefully friendly.
I love that. Yeah.
Right. And what will happen is people will never say something they don't believe. So if you genuinely didn't think I gave you practical advice, you would never say that.
Yes.
But if you agree with it, you'll sort of put it back in your own words. So it's a very natural way of making sure that you get your audience to say things. I'm just giving you tips from my course now. Look at you just asking for tips willy-nilly.
I love it. It's fantastic. You have given us so much in such a short period of time. I think video is such a daunting subject, but you've also made us realise that there is a lot more than just sitting in front of your iPhone, talking to yourself, editing very quickly. I think you can do so many practical things that will improve all of our videos. And Claire's just said, thank you, you're amazing. And I think everyone who watches this on the replay whether they watch this on YouTube later, because as everyone knows, all of our Recruitment Hacks live shows go on our Ruella James YouTube channel. And I think you're going to have to come on my podcast as well, because I just think you've given us some amazing tips. So thank you, Kirsty, for your time. If anyone wants to reach out to you, wants to do the course, which I would strongly advise, just you and I have talked about it off air as well. And we're going to put a couple of our team on there too. So thank you. We really appreciate your time, and we'll speak again soon, hopefully.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.